This is your girl Jody ASMR, and tonight I'm going to be reading true creepy encounters. So sit back and relax, and thank you all for coming back onto my channel. Thank you. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. I appreciate you all. So snuggle up and get ready for bed. And get ready for some creepy encounters. I was about 4 or 5 at the time. My parents had just separated. My room was living in 2 apartments. That was my life. When I was with my mom, even though I had my own bedroom, I preferred sleeping with her. Our 2 bedrooms were at the end of a hallway directly across from each other. Our apartment was on the very first floor. I remember that it was in the middle of the summer. My mom had a window open in her room, which was directly behind the bed above our headboard. I always would wake up in the middle of the night for some reason at her house. But this night, I remember sitting up in bed and seeing that our cat was actually perched in the door frame of my mom's room. Her door was open, which allowed me to see into my bedroom. But what was particularly strange about this night was our cat always slept with us. As I was watching him, he walked into my bedroom and meowed. I turned to face my mom and wake her up. Now that took 3 to 4 seconds, and in those seconds that I took to wake my mom up, we both looked through the doorway, and there was a man standing by my bedroom door. I still don't know how my mom managed to do it so quickly, but she proceeded to get me out of the screen window, which was on the first floor, and then follow me where then she started screaming bloody murder for somebody to help and call 911. The police came, but didn't see any signs of forced entry, only that our front door was unlocked, which led them to believe that the intruder actually left that way. But the strange thing was my mom swore up and down she had locked that door, the bolt, and the lock to the handle. Now about a week later, she was cleaning the kitchen, opened up our water heater closet to find a notebook with as well as a pair of gloves and gum wrappers. She proceeded to call the police again, and they surmised that this man had been living in our house, in the water heater room, waiting, watching until the right moment. When I was 12, one of the most terrifying but true stories had taken place. I moved to my dad's when I was 10 and didn't know anybody in the area, except for a family my dad was also friends with. A single mom with 3 kids. A girl a couple years older than me, 12 at the time when I met her. We got to know each other over a couple years, but we weren't that close, but ended up having the same friends. So one night, my friend Rob was hanging out with her and her younger brother. They happened to be in the house alone because my friend's mom was at work. Now this is where it gets horrifying and sad. Her mother had been helping a lady through her work. She got to know her fairly well, found out her sister was in a mental institution and was let out recently. The night Rob is hanging out with my friend, they get a knock on the door. My friend thought it was their mom. Her mom had a certain way that she knocked on the door when coming in, and it matched it identically. So she got up and answered the door without thinking. Now Rob was not supposed to be there at the time, and he booked it through the window to his house just down the road. He never thought twice about it. Her mom wasn't home, and her mom wasn't behind the door. It was the sister of the lady her mom was helping. This woman had figured out, through talking to her sister, where this family lived, her mom's working schedule. She came in. Now, I just wanted to tell you that this gets pretty gruesome if you want to step away. I'm not 100% sure of the details, and honestly, I don't want to know. My friend's younger brother got away to the neighbors to call the police. The lady brutally murdered my friend. That girl, a week from Christmas, decapitated her head from her body, left her body naked in a bathtub, and hid her head. This family had to look through the presents underneath the tree as it had been just around Christmas. Eventually, they found her head. I am so sorry that this happened to your friend. I can't even imagine how horrifying this would be to a family. sitting in my room after getting out of work on the second floor. My little brother is downstairs watching TV. The dog is in the hallway outside my door sleeping. All of a sudden, the dog starts making all kinds of racket, jumping up, barking, howling, scratching his nails. Literally just freaking out. I get up to see what is up with her, and I hear in a very clear voice, "Aw, that's a good girl." It is a male voice. It didn't sound like my brother's, so I say, "Oh, you're home early," thinking it's my dad's friend, our roommate, as I open the door. Soon as I'm out there, outside the front door, there is nobody out there, but the dog is wagging her tail wildly at the emptiness. My little brother comes running up the stairs, yelling at me for getting his dog all worked up, but said he heard the same voice, thinking it was me or our roommate. So he did a good once over the house with a butterfly knife and his BB gun, and there was nobody there. My aunt had experienced something similar when she was home alone. When she heard somebody open the door and walking in the hallway, her husband, which was my uncle, was not supposed to get home for a few hours. She went downstairs to see if somebody was actually there. She didn't see anybody, but outside the door, she saw footsteps in the snow, leading to the door, but not away from it. This, as I would assume it would, got her very nervous, and on a second glance, she noticed there was a pair of snowy boots, unfamiliar snowy boots, in the hallway. She ran upstairs and called the police. When they came, they searched through the house and found a homeless man hiding in the storage room with my uncle's shotgun. Luckily, it was not armed, because he had not found the ammunition, which was hidden in a different part of the house. My ex-wife had several weird experiences, and I'm about to tell you one of them. So I'm at work one day, and she calls me up out of the blue, kind of frantic. We were still married at the time. She never called during the day because she worked the night shift. She tells me to call my friend Danny immediately. I ask her why. She says she has this weird, horrible feeling in her stomach, and then she had a dream about it and felt like it was real. She can't remember exactly what the dream was about, but it was bad, and he needed to call Danny to just check on him. and said, "Look, the short trip you had planned on taking to go see your son, please just postpone it a day." Hearing how terrified her brother was, she said, "Okay." I'm sorry, her father was. She said, "Okay." She found out a little bit later that that plane she was supposed to be on to go see her son had crashed. That's terrifying. Terrifying. There is an abandoned house next to mine. Now, the previous owner moved out to California 25 years ago. And he never sold it. I'm not sure why we never saw him again. So I decided I was going to investigate one day. I got a pair of gloves, a flashlight, and headed on over. I pushed the window open and went inside. Starting with the basement, I found a grand piano which still played just a little off key. Old World War II stuff. And what seemed to be a signed Elvis poster. I mean, really cool stuff that somebody would never leave behind. There's basically an entire story in that basement, including a broken wedding frame and instruments everywhere. On the main floor, this is what got really weird. There was an unmade bed, molded food still in the fridge, and on the stovetop, half-empty beers turned solid, lights that had been turned on the whole time, that had obviously blown out. Then I started walking upstairs when I heard crying, like a baby crying from the other side of the rooms. That's when I freaked out, and I haven't been there since. Now I have a question for you. To me, that sounds pretty sinister. Would you call the police? I absolutely would call the police in this situation. This is not a squatter situation. This is something more serious, I believe. It had just snowed the night before, so you couldn't see the ice. On our way to the ice house, I ended up falling straight through an unmarked hole that had a very thin layer of ice covering it. The scariest part, well, I don't know what else could be scarier than this, but this is a huge fear, getting stuck under ice. They say the scariest part of this was instantly shutting down and sinking because of the cold. I could look up and see where I'd fallen through, but I couldn't swim back to it. After a few seconds, I finally willed myself up and to the edge where my dad pulled me the rest of the way out. Oh my gosh. You are so lucky that there was not a current under that ice, because you would have been gone. The fact that you were able to see where you shallow lake or pond.